2022 was a wild year for the Miata and me. A lot of ups, a lot of downs, never a dull moment in Miata land. Here are my favorite moments. Started the year off racing my Miata in another monster truck show. The first guy out tips his truck over immediately. I go next but get too excited and overcook this turn. Oh no! Have to throw it in reverse, so this run's done. Luckily we get two. Unluckily for this guy, he OJ'd and broke his neck. Carted off in an ambulance for real. This jump sucked. I'm sorry to anyone who came out to watch me fly, but I didn't want to end up like that guy. Run 2 was way better. I don't spin out and make all the turbo noise. I set a good time, but the last guy out beats me by 0.19 seconds, and I finished second in my second ever monster truck race. After the race, we headed over to Andy Blood's playground, an off-road Miata paradise with a sweet jump. The Miata loved it the first time, but not so much the second time. Broken control arm. Andy's mechanic John took it back to their amazing shop and welded it back together for us. We camped in this beautiful area, and the next day I planned to take it easy. That lasted about 5 minutes after we stumbled upon Skinny Ridge, this massive sandhill you have to try and make it to the top of. I promise cameras do this no justice. It's enormous and way steeper than it looks. I gave it everything the little Miata had, but the bumpy run-up limited my speed and I could only make it halfway up. Still terrifying.
Is that a tombstone over there?
Then we went back to the jump, where shocker, taking it easy only lasted 1 jump. Full send and called it a day. Got home and decided to turn my Miata into a Donk. First I had to buy these gigantic adapters. Then I saw these ridiculous wheels on Facebook Marketplace and knew I had to have them. It took some grinding, but eventually they fit perfectly. I immediately took it to my buddy Trey to get his reaction.
24s.
Then we hit the streets.
What the fuck? Was this a Miata?
I challenged this guy to a race, but he was too scared. Then we wanted to see how it did off-road. The answer was awesome. I've never done a proper burnout, so I figured the best way to learn was in a Donk.
I'm a burnout virgin.
On the 3rd try, I nailed it. Then James's Dyno shop held a Miata-only dyno day, so I took the Donk wheels off and put the regular ones back on. First pass, I made about 180, which was way less than I expected.
There we go. We'll take that one.
That's what she wanted.
Well, 9.
There you go.
To celebrate, I decided to put my Donks back on and drive up a mountain. I drove off the pavement and got stuck immediately. So I backed down, floored it, and got up the first measly hill, but it was just a taste of what's to come. The low-profile tires felt horrible, but we still made it over big rocks and ponds.
Your car is a lot more capable than you actually think it is. That's something the Gambler 500 taught me.
I miscalculated the amount of snow on the trail and got stuck again. My traction boards are junk, so I threw down some sand and got out, but backed right onto this giant rock. Tried another trail and snowed in again. I was about to give up and go home when I spotted this less snowy trail and decided to push on for the glory of Donk Miatas everywhere. This road had a terrifying sheer drop-off, but we were surviving until the top of the mountain came into view. I took it too slow and got stuck 20 feet from the top. All the burnouts in the world wouldn't save me, so I winched it for 3 hours and backed it down. Early in the year, I traded my 3000 GT rally car to Mike, one of the founders of the Piston Cup. I always wanted to race it against the Miata when I owned it, so now we can finally make it happen.
Missed the shift, but I still beat the 3000 GT, so we'll take it. That's intense though, guys. Man. 16.4, so much worse, but I missed the shift, so what do you expect? But I beat the 3000 GT at 20.1.
Then I lined up against an S4.
Hey! 15.2! Best time of the day. I'll take it.
Threw the Donks back on and headed out to Slush Motorsports Festival. I pulled it off the trailer and it was immediately a huge hit.
Something, yeah.
I actually got to meet a ton of you guys, which was awesome. Then I took a ride in the Polka Dots and Drift truck and watched these guys shred. I had signed up for the burnout contest, so I decided to meet my competition.
I bought it in the Colorado Springs police auction and it had blood stains all over it.
I was really nervous and didn't want to break the car. They told me the only rule is don't run over the photographers, otherwise anything goes. I floor it, drop the clutch, and it's actually going awesome until I almost break rule number 1. I have to regroup and floor it again, but nothing happens. The car won't move and we have to get towed away. Huge thank you to the guys that helped us push it onto the trailer. We'll get it fixed and be back for the next one. Then it was time for the 5th annual Piston Cup, and this was by far the wildest one yet. 25 junk cars racing wheel to wheel for the honor of winning the Piston Cup. The Miata was running on 3 cylinders and 3 shocks, so passing the Lexus was difficult until he sent it too big and they red flagged the race. Only top 2 from each heat make the finals, and I was in 3rd, so I had to run the last chance qualifier. The Miata was done, so I was handed the keys to the Lexus with the hope of driving her to glory. Starting in 7th was a challenge in the dust, but patience is key since most people destroy their cars before they even finish. There was no way I was losing to an HHR, so we had a fun little battle, and I got him on the inside of this turn. Then I was free to chase down the 3rd place Blazer, and when I caught him, the battle was legendary. I almost got him on the outside, but his 4-wheel drive pulled him through a little faster. As the white flag flies, the hatchback dies, and we're fighting for 2nd place on the final lap. Then we come around a corner, and there's the 1st place Kia broken down at the bottom of the hill. I try and go around off the track and high center. The Blazer ends up 1st, and I take 2nd in the LCQ.
Dude, that was wild.
The finals are a dust-filled send fest. The Lexus is holding together all right, but then I get stuck on that same hill 2 laps in a row and rear-ended by Donovan. Eric LeMay and the Scamp takes the victory. Then we packed up and headed to Oregon for my first ever OG Gambler. You pull into camp and are greeted by the wildest home-built off-road contraptions on Earth. There's a lifted hearse, dually Plymouth, even a Reliant Robin. Miatas of all shapes and sizes, and probably the largest gathering of off-roadsters ever. Then Hoopty Cross racing starts. Anyone in any car is welcome. The track is awesome, but I struggle with my tires. Then it's time for Formula G. Most laps in an hour wins, but you gotta switch drivers every 5 laps.
The horsepower to chaos ratio is off the charts.
There's mini bike jumps, the world's largest trash pickup, mud pits.
I taste so much dirt.
Gotta give a huge shout out to Dunn Lumber, All Climate Heating, Redmond Tire Pros, and Jason Humphreys for getting me out there. I can't wait to go back.
Today is the day. Brian's electric razor is finally ready for its first test on dirt. Wow! It drives! Heck yeah!
Half lap, still fully charged, so.
Unfortunately, we have broken the bracket that attaches the steering rack. That means it doesn't steer anymore. So we may be done in the Miata for the day.
So this pulled out, and then it went.
Okay.
That's it.
We're on the way to High Plains Raceway to meet my dad and the newly tuned Exoset to see how much faster it actually is after all the upgrades.
Somebody's air filter dropped off.
Yeah, there's something in the road there.
So the yellow flagged it. Oh, it turns out that was our air filter.
Oh.
Oops. Last time we were out, I was driving and we cracked the fuel cell, spilled gas everywhere, end of the day, and now I just saw a gas drip. Hopefully it's not the same thing. If the thing bursts into flames.
And $20,000 goes down the drain.
Got to meet up with my Miata friend Danny at Ram Off-Road Park. Unfortunately, his Miata was stolen right after this, so this was our first and only time meeting, but we had a great time shredding off-road. I'd been eyeing this jump on the ATV track for a long time and decided today was the day to send it.
Oh boy! That was freaking crazy! That was awesome! That was insane! Welcome to DRAGONMANS! 20 jumps on 40 acres. I'm gonna be the first one to get tires on it.
Just call it the Orange Crush.
Rougher than mine. How much travel these trunks got?
Zero.
Zero.
They're there for looks, not function.
It'll cycle about 25. I got strapped to 23.
We started the Denver Gambler 500 at the drag strip, and this Viper was jealous. Got onto dirt and did a round of shot roulette, then I immediately broke down. Cracked the radiator, so I put an egg in and sealed it right up. Drove 50 feet, then Andrew's Cougar broke. Bad fuel pump wiring, so we jumper cabled it straight to the battery and ran it like that the entire weekend. The other Miata didn't have a top or wipers, but still bombed some ponds and creek crossings. The bug killed it too. Camped for the night and did some burnouts for breakfast. The plan was to take it easy on the trails back to Denver, but that went out the window as soon as we saw some rocks. The CRV struggled, but the other Miata made it just fine. I took the wrong line, bottomed out on some rocks, and split the diff in two. With the guys' help, we were able to ratchet strap it back together. We had 5 miles of off-roading back to the highway, and another 130 or so back home, but somehow it held together. Got a new diff carrier and immediately headed for Yankee Hill. It started as a chill day to test Brian's homemade electric razor. We took a wrong turn and the road got not chill really fast. When I got stuck on these rocks, we should have taken it as a sign to turn back because they would turn out to bite me later on. But instead I just floored it and made it up. The razor did perfect and never got stuck, and I fell just walking.
It's gnarly even walking.
Final push to the summit, and it was gorgeous.
It's ridiculous.
2 hours top to bottom and totally worth it, but I had no idea the torture that was coming. Start the descent and perform a bolt check just in time. Then the rock that I mentioned before gets me. Snapped tie rod.
I have learned from previous mistakes and carry a spare tie rod.
Get the new one in, but 50 feet later it bends like a paperclip. Ratchet strap the knuckle to the frame, and Brian levers my wheel straight about every 10 feet for the next 7 miles back to the trailer. It took 4 hours, which if my calculations are correct is less than 2 miles per hour. So I headed right to my dad's machine shop to build some tie rods that would hopefully never break. I decided the best way to test them would be to live in my Miata for 24 hours straight.
There's a giant bug.
The tie rods held up great, so I set up camp and made my world famous bacon cheeseburgers. Then tried to figure out how to sleep.
That's a little off kilter there.
It's getting a little chilly, not gonna lie.
Survived the full 24 hours, then decided to go back into donk mode for the Rambler 500. We set off and immediately come to a pretty gnarly creek crossing, tossing a rock to depth check.
It's not shallow.
My intake's right here.
No choice but to send it.
Yes, heck yeah, Donk Miata off-roading.
The big butt stang makes some trailside modifications, and we're off and mobbing through more water. The entire point of the Rambler is to pick up trash on public lands, so we each fill a bag. But it's not enough to weigh down the Mustang, and they get stuck. A nice gentleman teaches Brian how to drive. And eventually, they just use the winch.
I don't know what I'm gonna do.
The donk made it through no problem, so we bombed this hill climb that was way steeper than the video makes it look. Dumped the trash,
Nice work, Ramblers.
and headed to the Rambler car show to see some of the wildest and most creative cars in existence. Limo with a barbecue and beer tap, Joel's Miata cart, and even my old Subaru.
The Flexus IS300 truck is my favorite.
Then things got weird.
I have absolutely no context as to what just happened there.
Day 2 started with some gnarly rocks, which the donk made it over just fine. And of course, the Mustang got stuck.
Got me.
But eventually managed to scrape its way through.
Yo, that was insane.
Mobbed some back roads and made it back to camp.
We survived.
Then somehow I was invited back to the Fall Slush Festival to try drifting. It was a rough start, but the kids seemed to love it.
I feel like we're gonna tip. Oh yeah.
Drag racing the Tesla went predictably, then we got to watch DDE do burnouts in their Lamborghinis. And finally got the hang of drifting at the end. Then loaded up and headed over the pass to Gunnison to meet up with Shred 80, the three-wheeler king.
4x4 only, so let's see if this thing can really handle it. Let's go. Let's go! See, that thing is sick. Let's go! Oh, baby! Oh, man!
From there, I headed down to Telluride to attempt to climb this mountain, but immediately popped another radiator. Put in my third new radiator of the year and headed to the sand dunes before the snow hits. I've been stuck in the sand a bunch of times before, so I was pretty nervous, but the paddle tires brought it to a whole new level. They just ripped. It was like no other driving experience I've ever had, almost like snowboarding powder. Tried to be a good Samaritan and pick up some trash. Then found this little jump. Wanted to be smart for once and not full send it right out of the gate.
Boy, that was terrifying.
Then I noticed a minor oil leak. Classic Miata. Got the oil line fixed just in time for the Halloween edition of the Piston Cup. The Halloween edition is awesome because almost everybody dresses up. Some do it differently than others. But regardless, everyone was going full send as usual, and the Miata was actually running awesome. This Subaru Sheepdog was not. I made it out of my heat in second, which meant I got to skip the last chance qualifier, and going into the finals, I was super excited, but then I started overdriving and got angry and ended up flipping.
So I come drifting down this corner, completely sideways, go into this ditch thing, and then the wheels catch right here, and I tip and shatter the driver's windshield right here. I could feel myself tipping, and I knew to like duck to get lower than the roll bar.
You knew to brace?
Yeah, and so then I just sat here upside down for a minute.
Luckily, the car wasn't too destroyed and did drive right onto the trailer. Was able to get a jack under the windshield, bend it back up, and get a new windshield put in. Did some bending and welding on the control arms and fenders, and within a week had it back up and running and ready to drive the 14 hours down to Austin for Hoopty Cross.
Hoopty Cross was born from the Gambler 500. I was one of the original 14 in Gambler 500. We wanted to do an open race series that was accessible, that was cheap, closed course, time trial racing. We race about 20 races across the country. We have a lot of fun. This is our first ever World Championship here at Rally Ready Driving School for all of our top drivers in our 4 classes.
Luckily, I went down there mostly just to film, because when I finally did get to drive, I took one run and then my new oil turbo line touched the starter, arced, and destroyed it and the clutch line. Tried to fix it, but ran out of time and energy, so basically drove 2,000 miles round trip for 1 minute of racing. At least the car didn't burn down. From there, I rushed home so I could fly out to film the Baja 1000. The race starts and ends in Ensenada, Mexico. Contingency is a festival open to everyone where the cars get inspected for safety. It's also the start and finish line tomorrow. In the afternoon, we made our way over to the race shop where the team was going crazy getting the car and chase trucks ready. Class 11 is a stock VW Bug, and spoiler alert, it breaks even more than the Miata. They have a 20% finish rate at the Baja 1000, so there are 6 trucks filled with parts, tools, and gas cans to chase the car around and keep it alive for 1,000 miles through gnarly terrain. Friday is race day, so we pack everything up and head for the start. The trophy truck started earlier in the morning and did a parade through town. We take off around noon and have 36 hours to make it back to the finish.
Miata! Yes!
The media team has 10 filmers and photographers in 3 trucks leapfrogging around the entire Baja Peninsula trying to stay in front of the race car so we can film it go past. I don't think anyone has put this much effort into filming a VW Bug before. Sauce the Boss had everyone's filming spots marked on a map to make it easy. Stop 1 was a success. Filming spot 2 was where we noticed our first issue. We have no idea when the car is going to go past, so we just kind of have to be ready at any moment. Darkness descended for spot 3. Remember, this is 36 hours continuous racing, so little to no rest for racers and filmers. Got a snack and checked out the garden, then on to spot 4 where they did some maintenance on the car and we got some tacos. Then hit the road for a 4-hour drive to the other side of the peninsula. Arrived at our filming spot at 3 a.m. and proceeded to wait for the car to pass. Remember that thing about not knowing when they'd pass and having to be ready? Well, we did that for about 8 hours, but I wasn't ready when they finally passed. We rushed to the next spot but missed them there too. Tried to catch them on the highway but they were too fast. Followed them onto the race course, which was super gnarly. Luckily, they blew their transmission so we could finally catch them. They changed the trans in about 3 hours and had 8 hours left to make it a couple hundred miles to the finish, but the car just kept breaking. The filmers got to the finish line 5 minutes before the cutoff at midnight, and no one knew if the car would make it on time. They ended up arriving 4 minutes past the cutoff time, but petitioned the organizers for a 10-minute credit for a traffic jam earlier in the day. So they got the finish, but everyone was too tired to celebrate, and we went to bed. Sunday morning, the team received a penalty for speeding, putting them 2 minutes over the 36-hour maximum time, officially resulting in a DNF.
It's the last Miata mountain cruise of the year, and I've never been on one, so yesterday I went out and bought a Miata. So far, so good. I love the Miata cruise. Man, it's so much different having a street Miata versus an off-road Miata. I have no point of reference at all. For a car I literally bought yesterday morning at 5 a.m., this thing is pretty freaking sweet. I love it. No complaints whatsoever. I haven't figured out the exact handling and braking characteristics yet, but we're getting there.